Well, we're going to ask you not to take a trip like that again in the future. If you're reporting on these things, we would prefer it if you did it from the safety of an office. I can't imagine just going out into the middle of the field like that and taking a look at it.
I mean, I don't know how I would. I've done my share of days reporting from the desk. It's nothing like what you find if you put feet on the ground, man. I'm pulling up the notes that I have written for myself, this massive timeline for Thresher Kane. I did want to figure out like what our success condition will be for the evening. Like, when do we know we have done what we wanted to do?
Generally, someone says, I gotta go, and that's how we know that we've achieved what we wanted to.
All right, that'll work.
Russell will poke his head in and say, it is too late. We go to bed. And like, oh, shit.
Are you gonna finish your birthday cake?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We gotta go to the store to get ice cream.
Yeah, that's how we know. We have to make it to the stores before they shut their ice cream. That is our whole goal today. God damn you, COVID. I want 24-hour stores again, please.
But when they're safe.
Yeah, when they're absolutely when they're safe. Yeah, no, I don't want them to ever open
there
up early.
Is. Okay, so I have here's this might be a good way to open, because here's what I absolutely love about what you guys are doing. It's that
yes, please don't.
it's that you guys have you've hacked the third dimension of Dungeons and Dragons, and what I mean by that is like the first dimension of play. I talked about this in the episode with Kyle Pointer. It's a D&D monster now. The first dimension of play is like rolling dice and playing the game. And then the second dimension is metagaming. It's building the character, optimizing the character if that's what you do, writing the story before you ever get to the table, all that behind the scenes stuff. And then there's this weird third dimension where the game and the metagame work their way into real life. And you can tell when this is happening when people stop saying, my character did this or they did this, and the pronoun switches to first person. I did this or we did this. And what you've done is you've made people able to play in that dimension just by listening to a podcast, because this is public radio in Eberron, and we're either a stakeholder in it or sending something to a Luffy. I spent quite a long time figuring out who I would be in this world if I were. And I guess I had more access than most, but still, like you're solidly in this third dimension of play. You've done something really smart. You've given us a way to play D&D without playing D&D. It's all of the upsides and none of the downsides.
We don't have to keep track of mechanics.
Yeah, forgive me. I'm all choked up right now. That means the world, because that's the way we always played D&D was, it's not my character. It has always been, I'm doing this, I'm doing that when we played, and to encourage other people to do that, because we definitely have several people that we know in our groups who are like, well, my character does this, and I'm like, bro, no, you be your character. It's okay. It's fun. But that was why we were like gung ho for this. Was like, we want people to be able to engage. We want to be able to give you the most out of your Eberron, because you're not going to get it elsewhere.
How can we immerse you in this stupid, awesome world with you not having to actually learn about Eberron? How can we help bring those elements of this fantasy world into your day-to-day life?
And when we decided to do the Kevin Capona's Tiny Tavern, another thing that we were really pushing for there was, how do we get people to just put music in their games? Like, we had heard several podcasts that had music in theirs, and we're playing with, hey, we're all bards, we're singing and all that, and I'm just like, yeah, no, encourage people to think of what would music be like in their game. What is music like in Eberron? Why are we not talking about these fun things that everyone would be like, yeah, without music, life sucks. So please play music.
I think a lot of it comes from my background in theater and improv, and I love theater and improv. During my session zeros of literally any game that I run, I teach my players the first rule of improv, which is yes and. And I essentially tell them, if you do not yes and, I will sit here as a DM and I will look at you and I will say yes and over and over at you. Because this is the most important rule of playing at a table with other people where you're improvising. And
I mean, you know, rule 1A, right? Which is no but.
No but is always a good one as well. Which normally we eventually get to.
Yes, I think a lot of what we do is to prevent people from playing the yes, but my character wouldn't do that. When sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to say, I understand your character wouldn't do that, but you've just decided to join this table. You've never met any of these adventurers. Tell me why you're going on the adventure, because I can't make that happen for you.
Yeah.
I can't bend and break this campaign so that way your character suddenly has incentive to go there. You've got to help me here. You got to help me build your character.
Yeah, and like every good improv exercise, a whole bunch of this is done before you ever get to the table. You know, there's a lot of preparation that makes improvisation look easy. And I think about it as a balance of energy. You know, if you're coming to the table as a player, you have to be putting in as much energy to the situation as you're taking out. So, dialogue, suggestions, support for other people's decisions, that sort of thing.
I really like that analogy. I think that we have a couple of our players who have different social anxieties, who tend to play more back. I'm always impressed when they come forward and we've brought them out of their shell and they have these crazy suggestions no one else would think of, or they have these beautiful role-playing moments. Like our one friend Cameron, sometimes he'll come through and he's been playing this dwarf fighter since forever, but occasionally he'll have these big character growth moments, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I couldn't have even pretended that was going to happen, and you made all of that happen on your own. You facilitated the whole thing. Just beautiful work, and it's nice. Yep. Man, I love role-playing games. I love building a community. We did a whole conversation with Davy Chappie about all the different ones that...
Oh, you got Davy Chappie.
We got Davy Chappie.
So that's a secret.
So,
no.
Hush. No, we recorded with him 2 weeks ago, and I think the episode he's going to be in is going to be...
I'd say 2 or 3 weeks from now.
2 or 3 weeks
Because I think on the timeline, the next one is... specifically the Moorland episode.
Moorland, and then
I think we have a 2-week gap until we have anything else. I think Shifters might be on the list.
Because he's going to be... No, he's Changelings.
He's Changelings. Yeah. But I think we have... I have to get a hold of Brian, and we have to do the...
Zorchilic.
The Droam. Yes, the Zorchilic episode.
You might have to brief me on this, because I'm not terribly familiar with Eberron. I should say that... I came to the game in late 2015. I was part of this next generation of people who came along just before 5th edition, when Acquisitions Inc. was kind of the face of the game.
Hi,
and then
that is also me. I am right there with you.
But it all means I don't know. I'm not very steeped in this lore. I love Eberron, but I don't put a lot of money into this game.
Understandable.
So
See, I've been in there since 3.5, so I spent all the money at that time.
we have a bookshelf that is all of my 5th edition books, and then like a bookshelf and a half, which is all of his 3.5 books, and then on top of both of those bookshelves is just a stack of all of the Eberron.
All the Eberron. We gotta keep those separate. We gotta reference them.
Special place, place of honor.
Zorchilik, because we were mentioning him, he's the mayor of Greywall. He's an Illithid, so he's a mind flayer who's in charge of that entire town, and we're gonna have him on. Yeah. And I'm really excited about that.
Wild.
And that's what we're trying to do is, again, bring that realism in, bring that sense of, hey, these people exist. Enjoy it.
Yeah. But the character that I've put together with Thresher, it never came up before. I built him as a wild hunt shifter.
Ooh.
I know. And this is like, at some point there will be a video or a podcast or a blog about this, where this huge Excel sheet of character ideas that I have that I will never play have found homes elsewhere, either in things that I've written for the DM's Guild or games that I've run for other people. Thresher Kane was somewhere on that row, and this is his home now. Like, this is what I use that idea for. But I also, I don't know too much about shifters. So I'm not sure where this is going to end up in the canon of the show. I'm not sure what we would have to cover at that point.
So can I?
Absolutely, yes. I was going to say.
Shifters at this moment in time are woefully unrepresented in anything canon with a C or canon with a K, which is what people say anything that Keith writes. So it's all of his blog posts that aren't sanctioned by Wizards of the Coast. But shifters are woefully underrepresented. They got a handful of pages in Exploring Eberron.
They did. They were featured in one of the novels, 3 or 4 characters in different novels, like one-off characters.
Yeah,
not really the main.
They a handful of the novels they featured in.
I was going to say, because Legacy of Wolves, there was definitely a shifter in.
Yeah.
Marked for Death, there was definitely a shifter in. And
and then
I think there was another one.
Basing White's novels
of course
had the shifters. But shifters are super woefully underrepresented, and I will use this time because we're totally putting this in our Patreon OOC episode. Anybody who's backing Keith has the option to vote on upcoming articles that he writes, and almost every time somebody says something about shifters and it gets put onto the poll, but it never wins. And we need to make that happen.
I could not agree more. You know what? Maybe we'll do a video about that, and then you can put it out to the Across Eberron group and just not the Across Eberron, the Threshold.
Yeah. Oh, the Threshold guys. Yeah. Push it real hard.
We want a shifter. You won't need to cover anything shifter related on this episode at all. We're going to have you just specifically talk about your time in the Mournland. We'll do an entire...
And then, of course, about Thresher in general.
About Thresher in general. Yeah, so anything that you would like to discuss regarding that, but any big things regarding shifters, we'll do a whole deep dive for at some point in time.
Soon, hopefully.
I think whenever the Legacy of Wolves, whenever the novel starts, is when I want to have the shifter episodes. I have it written down on the calendar. I have it
great.
down for that.
Yeah, because you guys are following. You guys have a date on all of the podcasts.
We do. I wish we hadn't.
I mean, I can't imagine the amount of work because once you've opened yourself up to the stardate problem, it might be random numbers that the writers spew out, but somebody's going to care about it, and now you have to care too.
A lot of ours, we've been really lucky because most of the novels and most of the modules, people put down the date but not the years. They're like, gotcha. We're going to work around that bit of nonsense.
Something Stephen and I discussed, though, is once we get through... So canonically, the campaign setting, the story begins in year 998. Stephen and I decided that once we reached 999, the end of that year, we're just going to stop putting the year on things and just
because I don't want to have to discuss what it means to be in the year 1000 in Eberron. Oh my goodness, what kind of celebrations are going on there?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, this leads me to another interesting question, which is Thresher's name already appeared in the show, and I know I sent you that email, but it bears repeating. What happens when you hear just a bit piece that you wrote as a random one-off pitch come back on the podcast? I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I know what he's going to say next. I got really excited.
I'm really glad to hear that. I think that we don't hear that enough. Like the level of excitement. We have people who write in all the time. Mm-hmm. One of the girls who's been following us for a little bit now does artwork and everything, and I'm just blown away by it. We have
fan art, which is really weird.
That's when you know you've made it.
As long as we have Tamara, we're fine.
Right. We got this, guys. We just got to keep a hold of her.
Okay, so I can kind of read this. That was on Vault 20th 997.
Oh, goodness.
I know, it was a while ago, which was in real time. When? September 11th. That's...
auspicious.
That's great. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Cut all that. That's not in the pocket.
So that's when that happened. Real time, that was 6 weeks ago. 8 weeks ago, just about. And so let's see. I cannot read these months. I'm not familiar with the Eberron calendar.
So Volt is December.
Volt is December, so that's the last month. We had to do a stupid long hiatus during Volt, so it should be Volt 13th. And then we had to take a 3-week hiatus going into it was Volt 20th.
Volt 20th, and then we had a 3-week hiatus because of computer problems.
Because my computer shat itself. And our roommate, who has a cybersecurity degree, was like, I'm trying to fix it. This isn't the type of IT I'm going into.
Oh, way to go, Meeps.
Yeah, good old Meeps.
Good old Meeps.
Coming through at the fucking end always.
But yeah, so Volt is December, and then Zerantir is January.
And we're currently in Ularun, which is February.
Okay, so it would have been, in the canon of the show, you would have gotten that missive sometime 2 months ago?
I was going to say 2 months, because it was currently this will be Ularun 20, so yeah.
Yeah, about 2 months ago.
Yeah, the easiest thing for us, though, is that we never have to change anything. It's always 6, 13, 20, and 27. That's the best.
28-day
Oh my goodness.
is nice.
That's Keith making it easy for everyone.
Exactly. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, get on that modern world.
But then we end up having almost a month's worth of extra days.
That's fine. I don't.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. When that aired, I was like, awesome. That was 2 weeks ago. Does the timing work out? And I spent about an hour piecing together. Would he even have had time to get to the Mournland and back in 2 weeks? And it turns out you can do it if you take an airship. If you take an airship over the Mournland. But to take an airship, I think the closest port was right at the edge of Sire, and that is a 2.5-day trip by train. So it just made sense. And I was deep into some wikis figuring that out.
Yeah.
And now that was 2 months ago. So I don't know if it matters.
I think it was one of those things. It's like we were going to follow up on it, and we had the intention of doing so. But
I think we even recorded.
there
the
was just
follow-up.
so much stuff being jammed into those weeks because we did the
absolutely.
3 back-to-back episodes of the Shadows,
Mhm.
and the Long Shadows were just the worst because we had a different person on each day, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, I
It was
just
so much fun though.
there are times when I really wish we did this like once per day every week, and how fun that would be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'd kill myself. I can't.
Yeah, it's
that's
too
just
much.
Too much.
With how much editing I have to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
I mean, anytime you set yourself a limit, and this is the other reason that I love you guys to pieces, because you edit your podcast. I just I do it obsessively because I wanted the first season of Making a Monster to be as accessible as possible. So it was like 15 minutes or less. And the amount of work you have to do to get a podcast down to 30 or 15 minutes, like it doesn't scale.
No.
It would
Yep.
take me less time to do a 2-hour-long podcast, which is just wild. All of which is to say, I get it. I'm not like, oh, you left me out to dry. That's not where I'm at. I'm just like, because I know what it takes to fit an idea into 30 minutes or less. But the question
I
then
must say that you do a great job of every
Well,
one
thanks,
of your
man.
episodes. It's just absolutely on point, and
They're really
like
nice.
even talking to you now, you seem very professional, and like you're the one currently doing the interview, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to say. I feel like he's prepared, and I don't know.
I should come clean. There's a couple of things you should know about me. One is that I'm a media relations professional by day.
Oh no. Yeah.
So I work with a lot of radio shows and news shows across the U.S. So I have the advantage on you there. The other thing is that and this maybe if you're using any of the last 21 minutes, the other thing is
Definitely going to use this. Absolutely.
I've spent some time working with actual public radio. Like I've done production work for them.
Really? Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it was an interesting opportunity, and public radio is just this bizarre little world of its own that it runs on love, the same way that D&D does. So it felt like home for me. I was like, finally, somebody put NPR in D&D, and I didn't know that I wanted that, and now that I have it, I'm very pleased. So yeah, I try to be prepared, and I try to hold myself to a very high standard for the podcast. But I've had to make this disclaimer a couple of times. I did an episode of Matthew Whitby's podcast, The Dungeon Masters Guild House, and he told me the same thing. Like you work so hard on your podcast. You must think I'm such a noob. And I'm like, first of all, you're British and I love you, and second. No, not at all. Because they're different things for different people. Like there's a space for a 2-hour unedited podcast where we just chat and do whatever. That's not the space that I felt Making a Monster could or should fill. And it's not the kind of thing that I wanted to make. All of which is to say, like, there's no reason for any podcast. It's a bit like golf. You're not playing against the other people on the pitch. You're playing against yourself.
I absolutely agree with that. I can't remember who I spoke with. What was it? Was it Davy? There was someone who I was watching one of their videos, and what they said was, there's always room for other people, and that there's no reason to think that because they're listening to your podcast over my podcast that they're not going to listen to both. That's just, we're not competing. We're all helping build that community. We're all helping bring more people to these different little niche categories and helping lift all boats,
And we're so good at it because everyone is such a big fan of each other. Like everybody I've met, even if they don't know me, we have something in common, and we have common ground, and it's very easy to if you're contributing something to the thing that I love, then it's very easy. Of course we have something in common. Of course I'm going to be a fan of yours. So yeah. Which brings me back to my question. Are we going with the
question? Jesus, I forgot.
Are we going with the 2-week timeline, or has it been 2 months? Because I will move some bullet points around.
Let's
say it's been the 2 months.
2 months.
Let's say it's been the 2 months.
2 months. We'll help everything.
Yeah,
I think
we can say that Thresher wanted to reach out sooner but couldn't. That'd been absolutely fine.
Yeah.
There was a Rakasha attack, so things have been a little a little heightened.
Tight around.
Oh yeah, on the. Okay, when did that happen?
The Rakshasa attack was second week of Olarum, so second week of January, so about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh man, where has he been? Because it's entirely possible that he it's entirely possible that he took a longer route. Either he hiked it or he took the lightning rail the whole way. Or he, tried to hike through the Mournlands, which, God love him.
What a hardworking boy.
Yeah, absolutely. he could have been absconded by the Lord of Blades. That's always another. Yeah.
That's always
I'm not sure I want to get into that. I think I don't know, because that's a whole piece of lore that I don't know, and that's the kind of encounter that I feel like would genuinely have changed the course of his work.
Yeah. Oh my God,
that's true.
That's solidly true.
So probably not that.
Getting an airship.
Yeah.
There have been recent airship accidents.
We
There's
have
been at least two of them.
literally said that there's been at least 2 airship crashes in the last few weeks.
Oh, that whoever agreed to fly over the southern tip of the glowing chasm was a couple of spokes short of a wagon wheel.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's 180 miles from Vatheron to the southern tip of the glowing chasm.
House Leander captain, who's just he's down on his luck. He spent too much money in the 6 stones rings.
He's gotta be real down on his luck. Goodness,
that's 100% how it happened. He got a hot tip. He hoofed it to Vatheron, and he found someone either drunk or crazy enough to make this trip. Featherfall out the side of it, and then just walking around trying to find a Warforged Colossus.
He got a hot tip and decided to parachute into hell and made it out. That's the impressive
This is what
fucking
investigative
thing. Good God.
journalism is, Stephen.
Oh my God, I didn't realize.
No, absolutely. All right, well, maybe it is. I don't know. It's when you put it that way, like I always just thought of, I don't think I had a sense of the full weight of what it meant to be in the Mournlands. Putting it that way, that this man is insane.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, see, it's both a lot and then not.
And not.
If you brought a small team with you, I think you wouldn't have any real problems because in what is it? The second half of the first module from Keith Baker. What the hell's the name of that one? The Forgotten Forge?
Forgotten Forge.
Is it Forgotten Forge?
I don't remember.
Shadows the Last War.
Yeah, Shadows.
So in that one, you end up going to the Mournlands, and you're like level 3. So I think,
so it's not too wild.
It is bad in some sections, just depending on where. Like if you're dropping dead center a Metrol, I'm sure that's just a whole other fucking thing.
The way I always envisioned the Mournland is it's a whole lot of nothing and despair, kind of like walking through a desert, which isn't too bad if you're prepared for it.
Right,
but
big
if you're
Dune
not,
vibes.
Very Dune vibes. I was literally about to say, if you're not prepared for it, a giant sandworm is going to come up from the ground and
they're huge. They're there. So yeah, that was his plan. Get a small team.
The healing is a problem
Yeah.
there, but I mean, you could get food, you could get water. The Twisted Abominations might be a problem in themselves, but
if you're okay with eating people, there's lots of people
there's
around.
solidly a lot of people. I mean,
people.
it depends on
Yeah.
your sensibilities. I'm not. He's a shifter. Maybe he's fine with it.
Yeah.
Do shifter eat people?
Okay.
Let's
No.
not.
Yeah, let's.
Now that's a hurtful stereotype, and I wish you hadn't.
Sylas, isn't one of your best friends a shifter?
You know what? Security, get this man out of here. I'm not going to be threatened by a shifter in my own home.
He's a shifter, not a changeling.
Trying to eat people. You heard him. I heard
We
him.
don't.
And I'm not going to have that happen.
We don't do that. We never have.
All right, secret Rakshasa. I'm not going to hear your bullshit.
All right. All right.
You okay? You okay, Rebecca? I think that's something we'll have to talk about on the Shifter episode, is we will have to go into, hey, they're not secretly Rakshasa or werewolves, so stop being dicks.
Oh, I wanted to, yeah.
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 Yeah, we'll
it's
have
a
to.
It's a whole thing.
On one of the episodes, we pretend to write again. Man, those first couple episodes, we wrote those, and those
real
were
hardcore,
and
and then we got lazy.
everything just became real loose, real loose.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
know,
you
we
developed your concept, you made a thing, and it got easier to write.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell people.
It's a good way to. It's a good way to.
Just sell it. We found it was better free form. It felt more
We-
natural, more.
We
real,
developed
like
the
just-
show, and okay.
We did
so...
the show. If you have critique, fuck you. That's
All right.
Yeah, let's.
I'm sorry.
move on.
I'm breaking
Let's,
Lucas. I apologize, Lucas.
Okay. So, oh gosh. So how are we gonna do this? Are we doing in character first? Are we gonna?
Let's do our OOC
Let's see. I
first
was going
because
to
we've
say
already got
we're
most of it
already,
here.
We're already
Okay.
light and limber. Let's roll into some OOC.
Let's just kind of barrel through it.
Yeah.
And then once we're out of questions or we can't breathe anymore, then we'll get into character.
Fantastic.
All right, so we'll come in the. You want to do the start? I think I did the start last time.
Yeah, I did it. Or yeah, you did.
Okay.
Hello, my name's Rebecca,
And I'm Steve.
and joining us today is the wonderful Lucas Scintilla. Is it Scintilla? Scintilla.
Things we should have asked before we started
We should have
recording.
asked before we.
It's been 30 minutes and
how-
we didn't touch on that at all.
How do you pronounce your last name?
So Scintilla isn't my last name, actually. My last name is Zellers with a Z. And Scintilla Studio
Zellers.
is the label that I use to publish a wide variety of creative things, including the Making a Monster podcast.
I'm the worst because I knew that, and it's in my brain. But like I always see like Scintilla Studios, and I just brain goes stupid.
No, it's okay. You gave me a glimpse into this alternate future where I had a much cooler last name.
I know Zellers is pretty cool. I like that one too.
Zellers
Yeah,
is
no,
pretty cool, yeah.
It's very Germanic.
and
Is it?
it's better than having a color for a last name.
Wow! Wow!
Wow. Wow.
Harsh.
So if you're listening to us now, it has either been the start of the episode, or we're solidly 20 minutes on, depending on how we cut this
Yeah.
up shortly.
Hello.
Welcome. Yes,
So glad you're
it's already
here.
been a great time here with Lucas, discussing all of our shortcomings as.
Okay.
Okay, you're being a little harsh.
All I'm saying is he planned out better for his character than we did.
I'll just put my bullet points away.
I know a Luffy's birthday, what moon sign she is, the position of the moons in the sky when she was born, her entire family background.
I don't know any of that.
Yeah, I still haven't decided on Sylas's actual last name. Like, I haven't done anything for it.
Or how many ex-spouses he actually has.
What his class is. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
That's great.
No, we did decide on some things regard to his past relationships, which are all juicy good stuff.
Yes.
But I feel like for these characters specifically, it coming natural as it progresses just makes it so that way I never accidentally release anything too early. Because I think that if I'm like, hey, eventually this is going to happen, I'm going to hint to it too early just because I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something very useful about this too. Is if Sylas were an artificer, then I would wonder, like, all right, what kind of artificer, and what feat did he take, and without putting him in that kind of box, he's in a whole different sort of way of doing a character. I relate to him differently. I don't have any dimension. He doesn't have any mechanical dimension to me. He's just a person, which is nice.
I will say, after last week's episode, the On Dare episode, the Discord went wild trying to figure out what class Sylas has, because right before interim music, Sylas says, "You know I use swords, don't you?"
I never once cast a spell in my life.
And the Discord went wild for a solid 2 hours, being like, "Is he a spell sword? Is he this kind of? Does he do this?" And it was
How
great.
in the world do you live in Eberron without casting a spell in your entire life?
And
Is that even possible?
I am sorry. There is magic inherently in everything. We can use items that do magic. That's not a problem. I'm not casting a spell in that case. I've never used a wand. Who has time for that? Honestly.
Scoop yourself out on a technicality. It's very on brand.
Absolutely.
Sylas de Civis getting away with everything legally.
As far as you know.
I spent a lot of time as a barrister, and I know how to cut hairs.
Oh, man.
That's a barber.
We're just going to walk past the fact that I missed that, too. Hey, for the benefit of people listening, I'll just go ahead and add, if you don't know who I am or why I'm here, I host the Making a Monster podcast, which is about 15 minutes on a given monster with the person who designed it, or whatever iteration of it we're looking at the moment. I'm here because I have been relentless in hounding these two to get on this show, because I love what they're doing. I love the experience of listening to this show, being a part of it on the back end as an audience member, and now as a guest. This is wild. So I'm really glad to be here.
Well, we are glad to have you.
Yeah.
And
it's not hounding, because I'm like, the moment I listened to Making a Monster, I was like, how can we get this man?
Yeah, if you haven't heard Making a Monster, oh my goodness,
genuinely,
it is so good.
You had
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm gonna tell you. So you had followed us on Twitter. And I did my usual snoop thing, and I was like, "Oh, he has a podcast. Oh, it's Making a Monster."
She
and
did
then I
an
was like,
investigation check. Yep.
I did an investigation check, and I was like, "Wait, I've heard this premise before." Literally earlier that morning, I was snooping around on Reddit looking at non-actual play podcasts for D&D, and I saw a Reddit post that you had posted, and I remember reading it, and you'd given the spiel of your podcast, and someone was like, if I wanted to learn about monsters, I would just open the monster manual. It would have to be really unique for me to listen to this podcast. And all I could think about was like, you didn't read this guy's like original post.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that comment at all. Man, I feel like I dodged a burn.
I solidly, I feel like you responded to it too. I don't honestly remember. But you were like, oh yeah, the podcast, it might not be for everybody or something like that. You were really political about it. You were really, 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 nice about it. I just remember like reading that and going, this guy's dumb. And obviously didn't read this Reddit post at all. And then when I saw your podcast, I was like, oh, I know this guy. Oh, I have to listen to this right now.
I got picked up from work and I climbed in the car and she's like, you gotta listen to this right now. And then we listened to several episodes as we were driving around town, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
We, instead of going home, we went around town just to stay in the car.
Yeah, I was like,
why was your Stay in the Car podcast? That's awesome.
Absolutely, it's so good. Yes. Because we didn't, like, you had listened to them in order, and then we were listening to them in just random whatever I wanted.
Because I was on episode 3, like the 3rd episode, by the time I picked you up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, you gotta listen to this. Come on.
Yeah, the Chinese hopping vampires. I was like, yep, I'm sold.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, that was one of 6 interviews that I did before I even launched the podcast. So the designer there, Banana Chan, she really took a chance on me. She and about 6 other people who had no idea that this was going to be anything. And they're like, yeah, I'll give you an interview. And she was episode 1 partly because of the timing of the Kickstarter that she was running at the time. I think Jiangxia had like a week or a few days before the Kickstarter ended, and I wanted to get that out. But also, it was the first episode because it really genuinely embodied the goal of the podcast. Every story is made from conflict, and the focal point of conflict is the monster. And a good story has to balance the monster and the characters and the message that they're doing. And when I was doing the interview with Banana, I just knew that of the 6 that I had recorded, that was the one that was making a monster at its most crystalline. So, yeah, she was up first, and it's been. I think I'm going to put out episode 12 tomorrow, and I've learned to see monsters and the study of monsters and the reading of monsters in a whole new way over the course of this project. And that's what I'm trying to give people.
I think that comes through. I think you solidly can tell that those are the goals there, that you have a good understanding of the monster when you walk away from it.
Mm-hmm. So thus far, your favorite episode or monster that you guys have talked about, because I know which one's mine.
Oh, on my show?
Yeah.
Dagon, 100%.
Okay.
Because I think that was episode 7. When I picked it up, I just someone had introduced me to Alex Klippinger, who's done a lot of design work on the DMs Guild, and he happened to say yes to the interview. So I was like, all right, I don't tell people which monster they should bring, and they don't tell me which monster they're gonna bring before they come on the show. So when Alex picked up, and he's like, all right, we're gonna talk about the Demon Prince of Shadowsea, one of the infinite layers of the abyss. I was like, great, sweet. So we went through the whole interview thinking that this was just sort of a Lovecraftian horror that had made its way into Dungeons & Dragons, as so much of the Lovecraft mythos did. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I published the episode many weeks later and was doing some research that I found out that Dagon... that Lovecraft had cribbed the name Dagon from an ancient Palestinian deity. And from there, it just kept going deeper. There was so many layers of meaning, so many uses of the word and the creature and the concept of Dagon, all the way back to thousands of years BC, that it was mind-blowing. How different how much of the iceberg there was underneath Alex Clippinger's 5th edition mechanics for Dagon. And that was when I knew, I think at episode 6, I knew that I had something real, something that could really tell me something about the world that we live in and the people who live in it, rather than just something that was, a way to have some fun and celebrate people who play D&D. So Dagon, that was the moment when it flipped.
Interesting. I really enjoyed both of the Dagon episodes, because you did the follow-up where you guys kind of delved into the... I'm not hallucinating that.
No, you're right. Yeah, that was what
that happened.
I had. No, it's not a fever dream you had. No, I had to. It felt like playing hearts and breaking a suit, because I had to make a whole new format for the show. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't, and I say this in the episode. I could not let people think that I had just... I couldn't purport to be giving people the inside, behind the scenes, deeper meaning of a monster and stop with Lovecraft's Dagon, because it goes down infinitely from there. And I was burdened to tell the rest of the story. And so I had to get Alex back. I had to call around and find a person who was... knowledgeable in ancient Canaanite deities, and who also knew a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons, and who would also talk to me. And that Venn diagram is very, very slim. But I found it. A friend of a friend who happened to have a lot of opinions on all of those things. So it came together really well, and it was an incredible experience doing that start to finish.
So you are in charge of making a monster, and you have discussed other people's monsters and their creations. Is there any monsters that you've created personally?
There's a couple. I do some work on the DM's Guild. I'm glad you brought this up, because I'll tell you I'll tell you which one of the ones that I've made is my favorite, and then I have a question for you guys, because no, you'll love this. For a product I did called Town Musicians of Bremen, which as of the time of this recording is one sale away from copper medaling. So get on it. Anyway, I wrote a replayable one-shot adventure that's based on the old Grimm's fairy tale. And I just had to find 4 monsters that were thematically appropriate for the protagonists of that story. The donkey, the dog, the cat, and the rooster. Ran a little short on the rooster, and I ended up writing a stat block for a were-vulture, which gets into kind of a gray area for me, because I'm not 100% confident that just putting the suffix were in front of any animal is a good idea. But I'm also not entirely certain it's a bad idea, especially going with a vulture, which has its own place in mythology and folklore. So of the ones that I've made, it's the werevulture, because I'm so uncomfortable with it, and I think there's a lot more work to be done with that concept. Oh, there's my HVAC. All right, I don't know if you can hear that.
As well. Yeah, no. It's a little. It's faintly in the background. You're absolutely fine.
That's what noise reduction and Audacity is for.
We'll come back to that. But I'm glad you brought up the DM's Guild, because I had another absolutely mind-bending bonkers moment with Rebecca.
What?
Because it came up just some other reasons that she had actually played the first adventure that I put on the DM's Guild. It's called The Contract. It's another replayable one-shot. There's over 1,000 ways this story could go. And I put it up in March 2018. It's done very well. It's a platinum seller. I don't think it would be so if it were released now. But at the time, it was competitive for what was appearing on the Guild. That was 2 years ago, and it's been out there. I know, like in my head, that it's sold over 1,000 copies, that there are people out there who have played this thing, that the characters that I wrote and put into this and obsessively playtested have a life of their own, and it's extremely satisfying just to know that. It's a whole nother thing entirely when someone says to you, "Oh my gosh, you wrote the contract?" I played that, and we had a great time. So this bizarre, like, reciprocal, we're each other's biggest fan happened again with this thing that I wrote 2 years ago, and I would really, really love to hear how that went.
I DM'd it for you, actually, Steve.
Was the contract, was that the one where we were, I was the city guard?
Yeah.
I was the quartermaster?
Yeah.
So that was a good time. We ran that one, it was myself,
my sister,
your sister, my brother,
your brother, and then
who was our was it Russell? Was it Meeps? I think Meeps was our last one.
No, it was because
it was
Meeps' boyfriend.
I was going to say Meeps and Jake. Or
no, what's he?
Yeah. There's no way that Jake played without Meeps.
Yeah,
Come on.
You're right.
That one was a ridiculous game just to start with. The characters were all the absolute worst. Like, I was a town guard, and I was the quartermaster, and all of my money had gone elsewhere because my brother played a con man, and Russell Meeps played a fake fortune teller. And so what they would do is they would tell fortunes, like, you're about to befall terrible misery unless you pay me money. And then if we didn't pay money to prevent that, my brother would break into your house and mess with your stuff. It was a great con between the two of them.
It was great.
And a lot of fun characters in that one. And then we went through and we did the contract. I really liked the different rooms initially headed into the building. That was an interesting... Was that you? Was that... See,
yeah.
I don't know. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was in the module or not.
So the map that I found for that, someone else made freely available. I wasn't able to print it in the adventure, but I did drop a link, and it was just meant to be this huge manor house. I should say at this point that, and it's no spoilers to say this if you want to pick this up. This is a spoiler-proof adventure because it's written with at least 8 options for how any one plot element could go.
Yeah, it's very unique in that every time you play it, it's going to be different.
So the overall plot is that the matriarch of a harbor town has hired you to keep her heir safe for the night. She knows that at some point before dawn, something will come to kill her heir. She doesn't know what, and she doesn't know when, and she doesn't know why. But that's enough that she's desperate to hire competent adventurers to protect her heir. And it's great because the character of Magrath, the matriarch, Magrath Fletcher, I pictured her as this very competent, very brutal entrepreneur who had sort of pulled herself up out of criminal life and poverty to have something resembling a business empire and a chance to influence the world around her for good. And it was all about to go south if her heir didn't make it. So it's great that, of course, she'd hire a criminal. Of course she would. I do have to ask, though, Wallace is the heir's name. I gave him a stat block because I know how much people hate escort missions. But I have... Almost every time I ran it in playtesting, Wallace ended up in a barrel. So what happened to Wallace?
Wallace didn't end up in a barrel.
I wanted to put him in a chest, though. I want
that
to be noted.
I wanted to put him in a chest. So, everybody just puts him in a box somewhere. That's wild.
That's my go-to. Is like they have to be protected. So Meeps, the name Meeps is from a character that we played. I played a different game, and I had Meeps, who was my my servant. I hired her on to introduce me and make me seem important constantly. And that was the argument that we had in that one. I was like, but no, I'm going to put her in a chest and she'll stay safe on the back of the horse. None of you I'm going to line it with pillows.
And everybody was against the idea because you can't put a person in a box.
But then I was like, okay, so if she gets hit with one arrow, who's paying for that? Because I'm not paying for that. I said put her in the chest. I think it's a go-to. You
it's universally true.
Absolutely.
You put Wallace in a box. That's hilarious.
Now, of course,
gosh,
Wallace wasn't Wallace for mine.
Wallace was not Wallace for yours. That was the twist at the end there.
Twist that we did.
There's a couple of different switcheroos with Wallace. What I tried to do was go through and look at every assumption that you were making when you were on this adventure and have a plot twist that changes at least one of them.
Oh, the assumptions we made was we had competent characters. I'm not sure which plot twist is based on that.
I can't... As a designer, I can't be held responsible for that. That's on you guys. All right.
That's how I start with my character. I'm like, what can I do to just anger everyone? That's the character I want to play.
It's true.
Hey, stories are made out of conflict.
I want to be the center.
So find it on the DM's Guild. You can play it. It will be different. You'll love it.
Oh my gosh, please do. Because like I said, it's so much fun. I found it just scrolling through the DM's Guild looking for some one shot to toss my players into to kind of just have fun with them. I love just little throwaways like that.
Disconnected stories is what you really enjoy doing.
I really love doing disconnected stories.
The post-board missions.
Granny Haggle.
Granny Haggle.
I remember being very jealous of that idea. There's a couple of people who have done that, like message board style DM's Guild product. I'm like, man, I wish I thought of that. That's a great, idea.
Did, I'm super horrible. So I purchased all of the Granny Haggle's like poster boards, and back before, before
in the before times,
we would play at our friendly local gaming store, and every other week I would run what we would call it the beginners and orphans table.
Oh, that's
so
adorable.
It's for players that are coming into our game store, because we were steadily building players.
I was gonna say at times we had 8 or 9 tables of at least 5 to 6 people.
Wild.
Yeah,
it was crazy
in a tiny little shop too, which is why obviously we can't do that anymore. But I would every other week I would let all of the new kids come to my table, and I'd run a short Granny Haggle one shot, and I had like a poster board of okay, so if you do this one you're going to gain 5 renown, and certain things you do will gain renown, and then like if you're high enough you're one of Granny's little ducklings, and if you're not then you're an ugly duckling. And so people whose DM might have skipped on them, or they were just kind of hanging out, those were orphans, and they would come to my table as well, grab a pre-built character and just hang out with us. So
oh man, good times, because I was gonna say I played Kevin in that campaign.
You did,
oh my goodness,
you did play Kevin Capona.
I played Kevin.
Oh,
Capona.
Kevin.
God.
I have that, so I commissioned like a $5 like shitty sketch of what I envisioned Granny Haggle to be, and I put it on the poster board, and we like it was like an actual like cork board that I put on an easel behind me whenever I would set up, because if I can't be extra, what's the point? But it's currently in our dining room.
Yeah, the problem with you being extra is we at one point in time went like 3 months. We're like, oh, we have to finish the next section of our campaign. But you have to wait. Rebecca's building the dungeon out of cardboard. Enjoy.
Oh gosh,
I really did. We went on a really long hiatus because I built the dungeon out of like this 3 foot tall ziggurat out of cardboard and tears.
I was gonna say, it took us like 2 hours to get through it.
Man.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's old school D&D. I recently learned that one of the assumptions behind the first version of Dungeons & Dragons was that a dungeon master would have a dungeon of their own that they would refine and build over time, such that the dungeon there was almost more effort into that than the characters who ran it. Kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen that Dungeon of Dressar, which is just a dungeon built drawer by drawer into an old dresser. And it doesn't matter who runs it or how you found it or how that dungeon came to be. That's all in it. But you would like, well, let's run Rebecca's Ziggurat this week, and that was how you played the game. So it's come a long way, but that way of playing it is still valid, and there are echoes of it in all of the things that we still do.
I was going to say, there's been a few of those mega dungeons. I've always seen them, and I've never played in one. I think just because my specific playstyle is roleplay heavy, so just running a dungeon heavy level 1 through 20 super mega crazy dungeon, I can't even imagine.
I'd cry.
And I mean, that was circa 1974. I mean, it's 2020. People want different things out of their game. If you think of it that way, my dungeon is the contract, and that's at least a third of it is role play and figuring out what's going on and how and why and when. So yeah, I think it's still there, that idea, but it looks different now than it did.
Well, I think that maybe discussing this entire concept of designing out a dungeon might be the next thing for you. Do the making a monster, do the designing
a dungeon.
Yeah. Well, it's a good point, because the horror of place is a thing, and just dropped a bonus episode about it because I happened to have found myself in a horrifying situation moving into a new home, which is where I went for 3 weeks. But even looking back at the Warforged Colossus from Eberron, that's a monster and an environment. It's a dungeon and a dragon. So, and even in the monster manual, where monsters have regional effects, there's huge, it's specifically intentionally written, this is this monster's lair. The monster's a product of its environment. And if you back up from that a little, the monster is a product of its culture. People from China are gonna build zombies in a different way than people from the Pacific Islands or from Western Europe, all of whom have zombies, by the way, and they all look very different. And then when you take that monster and put it in 1920s Chinatown in San Francisco, it's gonna look very different. So I don't know. I don't even know that I have to build a dungeon. I think I could build a monster and be doing the same thing.
I think that's a fair point.
That's my sermon for the day, I guess.
So Lucas.
Yeah.
We have spoken about your previous professions and current professions, but the most important question here is, how did you get into tabletop role-playing and or D&D?
So it was, I remember saying to a friend, I don't think I'll ever play Dungeons & Dragons. I think that's just a bridge too far. And
then crash cut into playing D&D.
I make a podcast about it. I write for it. I do all this stuff. But it was late 2015, and 4th edition was just kind of, I think 5e came out in 2016. Mm-hmm. So it was the latter end of 4th edition's life cycle, and we just decided, yeah, let's do it. And we went for it. Someone recommended Acquisitions Inc. to me, and I think I had been looking for something like Dungeons and Dragons my whole life. It's make believe with consequences. So I was always trying to do something like that. and I just fell headfirst into it from that point on. I've been in long-running campaigns. I run one, and I'm usually an alternate DM. I spend a lot of time running one-shots. When I discovered the DM's Guild in 2018, it was a few years after that. I was like, this is awesome. I've put so many hours into this game. It might give me something back. And it just snowballed from there. When you're able to make something and then you put it out and people have a use for it, and there's like money in the bank that wasn't there before, not a lot, but enough to say that like this is real. Like you made something that people can use. It's gone from there. I've worked my way through all of those 3 tiers of play that we talked about, from playing the game to playing the game outside of the game, like metagaming on it, to entering in that third dimension of like relating to people through Dungeons and Dragons, and connecting on a personal level through the game. And that's been my story for the last 5 years.
So on your show you have had a handful of people with TTRPGs that are not Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
How many non-D&D tabletop games have you played, and do you have any favorites?
Not enough. I'll put it that way. From the beginning of making a monster, I wanted it to have space for games that are not Dungeons and Dragons. And here's why. Like, D&D is probably the first role-playing game you heard about, and it's the most accessible, I think, because of the giant that it is, because of the sheer number of people who are familiar with this system and can bring you into it and like walk you through your first experience. So I don't begrudge the role that Dungeons and Dragons has in this space, but it has a certain rhythm. D&D. Success is a number between 1 and 30-ish. And it's pretty predictable the way that it moves. One of the games that I found that I've featured in my podcast early on, it was called Starship Infernum, and that is a blackjack-based system. So success in that was based on how close you got to 21 just playing off hands of blackjack against the dealer. And when we played that game, the experience of being together and telling a story in that way, and having that different rhythm, those different cues for success or failure, made it a very different experience, and I treasured it immensely. So when I started the podcast, it was like, yes, Pete, please bring other people who are making like wild things. Because the point to me isn't to play Dungeons and Dragons. The point to me is to tell a good story together. And if you're just locked into D&D's D20 system, then you're going to miss out on experiences like Starship Infernum, the one that I had, the one that convinced me that there were that the rest of the RPGs had legs on them, and could stand next to D&D. So not as many as I would have liked. I'm always open to a new one.
Oh, I will keep that in mind. We're going to add you into the rotation. Yeah. We're gonna make you play some of the ridiculous games with us.
Right now, so have you ever had experience? So yeah, you have. You've had experience with a diceless system, which is really nice. Not a lot of people know that there are diceless systems. Now, I play, I'm actually running one right now for Steven and a bunch of people from the Eberron Discord.
Hi, Eberron Discord, guys.
Hey, Eberron Discord!
Azura, I know you're watching right now.
You're so creepy.
I felt that.
He has this power. I don't understand.
It's because I'm a Rakshasa, guys. I've warned everyone. I've been leaving you guys hints. How are you not noticing? Come on.
Ah, the cake?
Did
we talk about the cake?
So many people called the cake.
We'll get back to the cake.
We'll get back to the cake. We'll talk about the cake later. But so I'm currently running, it's a game called Good Society. It is a tabletop RPG that is not only diceless, but I would wage to call it randomlessness. Randomness?
I have no idea what those are words. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, there is no element of pulling something from a deck that you don't know what it is. There's no element of rolling a dice.
It's not a chance.
It's not a chance
system.
Based.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's
now.
crazy.
There we go.
My unified theory of RPGs. I'm going to give you guys this. This is special. It's every RPG has a setting, a chance operator, and mechanics. That was my thought up until this precise moment.
It's called Good Society. It's a Jane Austen RPG.
Oh no!
It's phenomenal.
Oh no!
That is the response that I had for the first time that we were going to play it at what we were doing an all-day gaming event. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be terrible. A Jane Austen RPG.
Oh, Mr. Darcy, please.
Yeah, and then
exactly.
I got to become a fancy lord about town.
Oh,
it was fun. It was so fun. So fun.
Yeah, you're at that point you're pushing the edge of just an improv theater experiment.
So
it might be that. Oh my goodness.
So it definitely has rules. I know because I backed them on Kickstarter. No, it uses poker chips as I will give you my poker chip. I will give you my resolve token if you let me affect what your character is going to do. And so it's not like it's not a competitive game, but it's also not a cooperative game, in that everybody has a secret desire that they want to fulfill by the end of essentially the book. And there's like a letter writing phase, and it's brilliant and beautiful.
That's great.
Yeah, you
great.
build the story alongside everyone else. It's really fun. It's so good.
All right, you've convinced me.
All right, you're in the next round of that. Come on.
Oh no.
I'm currently hoping to write a hack for it called Sharn Society. So
no!
It's an Eberron Good Society.
Yes, that's for someone. Someone wants that.
So many people want
it.
No, so absolutely. Many people. I've talked about it on the Eberron Discord, and there's a significant amount of people who want this.
That's wild.
And then, of course, one of my players, when I recommended we play this after we were playtesting, Curse of the Thornwood for Stuart Bronze, and I recommended playing this, and they went full head on into Regency era fashion, etiquette, peerage, the whole shebang, and I ended up doing a PowerPoint.
Oh no!
This is what the Regency era was in England. You're welcome, guys.
This is why RPGs still exist, and this is why they have the influence that they do today. It's because it's a home for just all of this creative energy that might have nowhere else to go. That's insane.
Huge nerds that really want to be in a Jane Austen novel.
Exactly. That's why it's been so easy to make a podcast about it, because all I have to do is get people on the phone and ask them about something that they love to do. And I don't think you'd be at all surprised to learn that if you ask people to tell you about the thing that they love or about themselves, they'll keep talking.
Yeah, it's true.
My biggest problem is that I want to keep talking too, so...
Make some room, man.
Speaking about talking about ourselves,
go on.
Lucas, you briefly said something that I am going to have to bring up.
No.
You said something about having issue with just putting the word "where" in front of any creature.
Oh, we're gonna do this now.
Yeah, apparently we're gonna do this now.
Yeah, I'm just
Lucas.
saying.
I thought we were gonna do this in character.
No, I mean no, right now.
Right now? You're gonna put me on blast right now? Okay. So, all right. So here's the official PR response. There is a home in this game for everything, and it's for someone. I tend to want something more rigorous out of the monsters that I put in my games. And maybe want is the wrong word. Like, I expect that out of them. If there's a dragon in my campaign, then I want it to say something about greed or power. If there's a Nothic in my campaign, I want it to say something about secrets and the way that we treat them. So for me, I'm very much a purist when it comes to lycanthropes, because I think it's they meant something. And that meaning was a lot more impactful at the time that legend was originated. That being said, that's what I like and I expect and I want and how I play my game. The beautiful thing about this is, and the reason I have a podcast, is that all of these monsters mean different things to different people, and they can give you something satisfying and meaningful and helpful, even if they're not true to the original source material of the monster, whatever that happens to be, if it even exists. So, yeah, sure, wear a pigeon. Why not?
Why not? I will tell you why not. No.
Oh, no!
No, absolutely not. I'm willing to deal with so much stuff, but
just,
no.
They're just sky rats, is what they are.
Exactly. They're just slightly more sentient sky rats.
Rebecca at one point in time was looking for an artist to do ancient medieval drawings of were-pigeons.
Of specifically pigeons with like beefy arms.
With beefy arms, like the old knights fighting snails, like that.
That's
whole
upsetting.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, so this is why what you've done works, and no, this is true. This is why what you've done works. It's the exact tension that I have, because what I want is a were creature that like has teeth and will scare me and will make me ask questions about who is man and who is monster here. Like, that's what I want, and that's what it carries with it. So for you to come in and say, what if it were this stupid looking bird that lives everywhere and poops out everything? What if it were that? Like, it's not.
Who's the monster now?
Right, but it's not funny if we didn't have the werewolf first. Like, if I weren't coming into this going, no, make me like a thing with teeth that's scary, and you're like, what if it's this stupid looking whatever? That works.
Yeah. I'm glad.
I'm having it. There's a bonus episode here. I'm having a real moment putting this together. I gotta do some reading.
Yeah, do it.
What are we doing some reading on?
I gotta brush up if I'm gonna take a stand on lycanthropy once and for all.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You know what?
Yeah.
I gotta do the definitive making a monster take on lycanthropy. Why'd you make me do this?
I would be happy to guest on that and just make the case that so this is a legit conversation we've had in the Eberron Discord, because were-pigeons are extremely divisive, which is something I love creating, is things that just are extremely divisive. Because a lot of people say that lycanthropes should or can only be of creatures that historically humans have had fears of. So tigers, werewolves, rats,
boars,
ravens, boars, stuff like that. But then here I am coming in A lot of people are afraid of seagulls because they are monstrous.
They're terrifying.
Seagulls.
They
are genuinely terrifying.
Or there was the argument that they can only be mammalian, that they cannot be avian, and that got into a lot of questions about like wereporpoise, and the
wereporpoise, the wereplatypus, if you will.
Oh my god, the wereplatypus! What a nightmare! They already look ridiculous.
It's already a were creature.
Just
but
a chimera,
let's be honest,
if you will.
The barb in their armpit.
Yeah,
that's the most deadly. That's true. The most deadly.
They are.
Yeah, those things are beasts. That's crazy.
It's a werebear, but it's a koala.
Well, oh gosh. Yep. I mean, we might have done it because, like, that's a great point. You have to be afraid of the creature. It has to be something that counts as an antagonist, as an opposing force, as a monster, as part of the unknown. And if it's not, then it doesn't feel like a monster should. But then there's the other argument that what if, like, how do we classify this? Is this idea built out of its constituent parts, a person that turns into some kind of animal, or is it built out of the layers of meaning that person and that monster have associated with them? This is insane.
and then you get into, okay, well, now it's a regional thing. If it's a regional thing, what about pirates? Do pirates believe in were sharks? Is that a thing they're afraid of? Just
right out the air on the waves underneath the bright moon, the were shark comes. Like, just ridiculous stories. You have to wonder exactly what it is, where the line is.
Yeah. And if you look at a platypus, I mean, that's a chimera creature. There are loads of monsters that are just made out of bits of other creatures. And that's what makes them monstrous. So
I wonder what a platypus qualifies? Like where's the line on that one too? Yeah,
that's
a regular
beast? Why can't we have were manticores?
Yep.
And I'm done on that fucking note.
I'm breaking Steve.
A weremera? Oh my god, like a werewolf chimera mix?
If you do decide to do a deep dive into werewolves, or lycanthropy, or animal shape changers in general, there is a tabletop RPG called Turned, by Bree Sheldon.
Of course there is.
It delves into kind of like the dual life of someone who is both an animal and a person, and having to move around in both of those social structures.
Deal with that plurality.
To manage the beast within.
Exactly.
To borrow the Eberron. You might be surprised to hear this, Rebecca. I think we might have just... Am I going to get a copy of this audio?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think we maybe just did the episode. I think we just did it. I think I'm comfortable with what we've done. I think we did it.
To all the Making of Monsters fans, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I'm assuming the swear words are not welcome in that one. I'm so sorry. So absolutely sorry.
There you go.
We'll edit
just
in the
keeping the explicit tag off. That's great. I try to let people express themselves in the way that they want, but I also try to make my podcast, at least my show, something that anybody could pick up no matter who's in the car. So that's my take on the swear word.
We try to do similar. There's been the occasional swear word in ours.
PG-13. You get
PG-13 rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it was up to me, it would just be all swear words. I'm from New Jersey. That's just how we speak.
Oh yeah.
It's a regional
dialect. Come on. If you were
I'm from New Jersey, not Italian. Come on now, take it easy.
If you were from where I was from, you'd be dead.
It's ridiculous. Every time somebody says it to me, I'm gonna smack them in the face. Every time.
But just put it right up in the kisser. Come on. What do you think I am?
It's funny because I love calling home and talking to my family. like the variance in there's one of the people who we did a podcast with or who was on the podcast, Weretalk, the very first or second episode. He came in. He is heavy Italian, and he's from New York. And every time he and I get in a room together, we slowly work off of each other until we're just comical, ridiculous, fake accents that neither of us has ever done in our entire life. Exactly.
Are you gonna go grab?
I was gonna say
water?
I'm gonna step down and grab water. If you want to do the, if you could lose the magical spell, what magical spell would you lose?
Yeah.
That way,
lose.
Get rid of a magic. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and then I'll come back and I'll do the magic item one.
Oh, okay.
Or if you could introduce an item into.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I'm saying. You know
I
what
got
I'm
you.
saying.
Our typical questions.
Yeah, typical
You're good.
questions.
Get out of here.
I feel
Close
like I
that
should
door.
have studied for this.
Is he gone?
Everybody
Okay.
says that. No,
Is he
no,
gone?
we're just horrible people.
Is he gone?
Yeah, he's gone.
Okay, Rebecca, there's something you have to know about Steve.
Oh no, what is it?
Oh crap, you're yes-anding me. Dang it. He's not who he says he is. All those voices he does, he's insane. You're in danger, Rebecca. You gotta go.
I could have told you that. Sometimes his voices will have conversations with themselves. He'll stand in our kitchen and he'll be Kevin, and then he'll turn around and he'll be Sylas.
Oh
Help.
man, this bit got too true. Hey, let's put the bit over there. What was the question?
Yeah, so if you could have any magic spell from Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition that you could use whenever, what spell would it be? And don't say wish.
Okay, I do have an answer for this, but you said 5th edition.
If you want to go older editions, you can. That's totally cool too.
Because the answer to this 100% is 4th edition Misty Step, where you could just do it. The amount of times I have been in an awkward situation and I thought to myself, man, if I were just 30 feet to my right, my life would be so much better. Misty Step. 100%. There isn't a better answer to that question. I'm sorry, every other guest you've had on the show. That's the answer. It's Misty Step.
It's Misty Step. What kind of situations do you just need to be 30 feet away?
I don't know, like if you bump into somebody in the airport, or if you're like, man, I could just get down this, concourse, and like, but there's a bunch of, or just lines.
Okay, yeah.
Skip ahead infinite of the uses. Skip ahead of that. Also, that's about 3 stories, 30 feet. What do I need stairs for? Just. Pff.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
Or fences. Any fence, anywhere. Just. Pff.
Yeah, I'm done. I don't. What is a fence to a man like me?
Yeah, that's it. It's Misty Step, but 4th edition Misty Step when it was broken.
Man, I really need to go to the bathroom. Misty Step.
Yep, and you're just gone. Or like, man, the buffet table they just put out fresh banana pudding. And I could just get it and then go, and then I wouldn't have to like get the soupy banana pudding that's left after the whole list line has gotten banana pudding.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I hope I didn't.
What was that? What I miss?
Nothing.
Nothing. No, we didn't.
I don't know. Nothing.
We didn't talk about you. No.
Nothing.
No, it's just what? Huh?
I didn't.
Why were we talking about me?
We
I
weren't.
didn't spend too much time on banana pudding.
Banana pudding.
So,
speaking
of banana pudding, like vanilla wafers or like little cut up bananas or
Yes.
graham crackers.
Yes.
All of the
Banana
above?
pudding. Banana pudding is not an exercise in restraint, Rebecca.
I haven't had banana pudding in like 6 years.
Bring it to me. Yeah, it was definitely a college food for me. But there was one special moment in my entire 3-year college stint where I got the fresh banana pudding, and I remember that golden experience to this day.
my goodness. I'm not sure what I've walked into, but let's just roll with it.
I feel like we all have that kind of experience that changes our culinary lives forever.
We are an hour and a half into this podcast, and we have landed on banana pudding.
This is where we need to be. I was going to say, absolutely. If you, instead of vanilla wafers, if you're out there listening, a friend of mine did one where instead of vanilla wafers, they put down chessmen, the fancy cookies from Pepperidge Farm. Yeah, you get like the good cookies on top of there. Those nice shortbread. So good.
No, I stand vanilla wafers.
I gotta go. I got some things to do. I got some things to pick up from Kroger's.
Yeah. Will you let us know how they... I want to know.
I gotta go to the store, guys.
I got some...
If you're listening and you try any of ours, let us know. If it's vanilla wafers, the chessmen, the graham cracker. We need to fucking know. This is what we're here for.
So I have one more question before Steve asks his. That is, if you could have any... I'm going to say, in the spirit of your podcast, any mythical creature from TTRPGs or beyond as a pet, what would it be?
Pet.
Mm-hmm. They love you unconditionally. Dragons don't count because they're intelligent.
Okay.
Well, if the intelligence level counts, then you're going to throw off a lot of them.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean like.
What are we talking? 8 or lower?
Well, it's more
out of 20?
if in general consensus we agree that they
gosh.
talk. Like that feels like.
Oh, okay. Right? Okay. Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'll give you that. As a pet, gosh, I have. Here's the problem with most tabletop RPGs. It's where the monsters go, and monsters. All right, walk with me on this. It's where the monsters go, and the monsters aren't there to be our friends. Like, that's the whole point. So it's like 90% of them are terrifying, horrible, disgusting things that you would never want to be real to anybody. And my usual answer to this question is Displacer Beast. It was the first Dungeons and Dragons creature that I ever saw. It just hit me because it just hit me where I lived. It has too many limbs. It's spooky. But the problem is, it is intelligent enough to hunt you, and it is sadistic enough to enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, both of those, are a little disconcerting. Yeah.
I mean, they're awesome, and I love them, and they're super cool. But I don't want them in the world. And so now what do? Do I choose Blink Dogs, the Displacer Beast's instinctual enemy, for reasons that nobody understands?
Cats and dogs.
I was going to say, probably.
I mean, like, that's the thing, but like, who decided that to hunt a creature that appears to be 3 feet away from where it is, that your best option is to get a dog that can teleport? Whose idea was that? I don't see the connection.
Yes, it was probably like a drunken try, and they were like, that one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Of course, Blink Dogs do bring in the idea of adorable fuzzy butt corgis that are blinking around.
No.
Too, so, yeah.
I mean, they're already a handful without it. Gosh, I don't think there's maybe a flumph.
Oh, flumps.
Okay.
Flumps
probably
are a good time.
It's the only thing in the Underdark, which is D&D's Australia, if you don't know. It's the only creature in the Underdark that isn't there to kill you. That's like actively helpful. And it's just adorable.
Flumps are my favorite D&D monster.
It's a helpless magical jellyfish, and I love him.
Yeah, and then they can turn evil if they live too close to Mind Flayer communities, and then that's just sad because
it's tragic. Now you feel for the guy.
Too many bad stuff, and now they grumpy. It's like you are what you eat.
Since we had this discussion, goddamn, the banana pudding.
God help you trying to edit this together.
It's going to be the best. Yeah, no, the OOCs are the easiest because
I think I'm going to post this one on YouTube. Too.
You go through, you just chop it up, and yeah.
I'm going to give this one to the public.
Enjoy.
Sorry?
What was I going to say? No need to be sorry. This is perfect. This is what we want. If I'm enjoying listening to it and you're enjoying listening to it, that's two people. I've got two views on that one.
It's for somebody. It's for somebody.
Your usual question.
No. I had a question before then.
Oh,
So you mentioned that most monsters are intended to be opposition to your adventures. Have you heard of Sybil's Codex?
I've heard of it. I cannot remember for the life of me in what context.
So Sybil's Codex is a book of monsters that you can actually tame and act as your friend and pet. And I was very intrigued by that when we had on Runesmith. He talked about it, and it was one of the things that he was involved in, and I just wanted to throw that out there as something for you to look into.
I think we're back to the werepigeon thing, because that's not remarkable. If this is something that H.G. Wells wrote about writing, is that if you lived or was it Jules Verne? One of the two. His idea was, no, it was H.G. Wells. His idea was that you change one thing about the world. For example, time travel is real. And that's the only thing he changed. A flying pig is interesting, but not if there are flying pigs everywhere. I'm misquoting it, but that's the essence of it. So Sybil's Codex stand on its own because we have this tradition of monsters that eat us, that we're supposed to be afraid of. So when the monster becomes the friend, there's a reversal there, and that's interesting. I'm here for it.
I cannot stress enough how interesting all of the monsters, and the artwork is just... I think when I talked to him, I was like, the artwork, and gushed about it.
Now, again, I do have to bring up an issue here.
Oh, no!
So, Stephen introduced me to the popular video game called Ark: Survival Evolved. I don't know if you are familiar.
Robot dinosaurs forever.
Robot dinosaurs forever, exactly. It's a pretty fun game. So what I would do in that during Stephen and I's brief stint into that particular game is I would gather up as many dinosaurs as possible, and I would just walk over to whichever one it happened to be, and I just give them a little kiss on the nose. It doesn't matter if it's one of those horrifying Leopleurodons. It deserves a kiss on the nose. T-Rex, kiss on the nose. The cute little gerbil ones from the second expansion, kiss on the nose.
So what your argument is that every monster should be someone's pet? Is that where you're going with this?
Yes.
Yeah. No. Hell no.
There's someone out there who loves a displacer beast, murderous, tentacle whip kitty and all.
I think if that's the case, if you are someone who actively has a displacer beast as a pet, yeah, I'm going to avoid you. I'm going to keep my distance. Yeah.
No, this is a person I must talk to. Like, how in the world, what decisions in your life led you to this point? Let's chat. I have questions. My email is on my website. Yeah. Hit me up.
Please hit him up. He needs to know. He needs to write to him. Don't
hit me with your displacer beast. That'll hurt.
A question. Speaking of questions. Yeah, focus in, Steve.
Yeah,
come on, get it together. You're a professional guy.
We're professionals.
Speaking of professionalism,
no, Rebecca, come on. Oh, I thought you were going to go off on a tangent. I was like, don't do this to me. I can't remember my question.
He was so close.
Yeah. So, my question for you is one that we frequently ask. We introduced the radio to Eberron. We introduced that into the magical world.
I'm so glad you did.
Well, we are thankful that we have you. You and our other 10 listeners, you make every day worth living for.
No, it's we've got like 400 subscribers across everything.
We do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hello, 400 people.
I had to pay all of them. They're all Russian bots. We're getting there, though. We're solidly getting there.
It's about momentum, really.
Exactly.
But with that said, is there an item in the real world that you would introduce into a tabletop RPG? or D&D
specifically into
Eberron.
Eberron, or an extension of that into your typical D&D high fantasy.
So your basic heroic medieval fantasy.
Fantasy.
So Ren Fair, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, that's rough. So one of the reasons that I love Eberron so much is that a lot of industry has been replaced by magic, and it begs the question: was it magic or technology all along? I mean, the classic one, I think A.A. Clark said this, was A.A. Clark. I'm going to get this wrong, and I'm going to be super embarrassed if I try to be smart. A science fiction writer said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So, I mean, magical healing itself is kind of scary. I think, you know what? Wow. I genuinely don't have an answer to this. I'm trying so hard to yes and you on it. Okay, first thing that comes to my head, the unicycle. Let's put that in there. I mean, there's a circus there that needs it. Let's put an owl bear on it. 100%. That just made somebody's livelihood. Also, now we have chain drives and pedal drives. And if it's one wheel, somebody's going to put it on 2. And then somebody's going to put it on 3. And before long, we have cars. Congratulations! I just brought cars to Eberron. Way to go, me.
That has been our big fear with introducing radio to Eberron. It's like, it is such a stone's throw away from just destroying Eberron immediately.
Where do people listen to radio? In their Eberron cars.
Radio is like a stone's throw away from, like, the internet.
Yeah.
Even though realistically it's like a quite a bit of
it's a couple
leap,
heavy throws,
but,
it'll take some time.
I like
it's somebody else's problem.
That's definitely not one that we've gotten before.
Oh, good.
So Lucas listening to this in the future, you were right. It was A. Clark, A.C. Clark.
Yes, I knew I got the initials wrong. A.C. Clark. I was thinking of A.A. Milne, which is a different ball game. Arthur C. Clarke. That's the guy.
Arthur C. Clarke. Yep, Arthur
That's
C.
the
Clarke.
guy. I knew I'd get there.
Man. Thank goodness we don't have you in Eberron, but thank goodness I have you in everyday life.
I got it. I made it. I've redeemed myself.
So this is... Any more questions from you, Steve?
I don't believe so. I would love to sit here and do this for another 10 hours and then
oh no,
just shoot out a 20-minute video. Just all the highlights. Just us screaming about werepigeons. Classic us.
Then this is indeed the part where, Lucas, you get to do your best shill.
Yeah, shill for tell everyone
we're doing
they can
plugs?
find you and yeah,
do
plug
your
it.
plug.
We want you to plug
people...
as many times as you can.
Okay.
Where can people find you? What do you do precisely? How can they get a hold of you if they're like, man, I want this person to talk to me?
Well, the easiest way to say what I do is that I would like to be considered a creative consultant. So I built the platform Scintilla Studio. It's scintilla.studio, not .com.org. And on there, you'll find my 4-step method for making any creative project sustainable. And I based it on ecology. It needs a habitat, it needs a place to live, we need to keep it safe from poachers, and you need to push the snowball, build momentum over time. And I've applied that concept to, we talked briefly about an EP that I put out a couple years ago, just a minor independent release. I do a lot of game design on the DMs Guild, and now I do a podcast called Making a Monster, and it all lives on scintilla.studio. I think I would want you to find Making a Monster first, because I think it's the best thing I've done so far. So find me on scintilla.studio/monster or search Making a Monster wherever you get your podcasts. I'm on 13 platforms and counting. Verbal is next. So there's an app for everybody, and I would love to show you the work that people are doing in tabletop role-playing games, the work that I'm doing, and I would love to introduce you to a way of making your games more meaningful and memorable through the monsters that populate them.
Man, so again, so on point. We need to practice. We need to be better.
We do. We need to. I don't know. I think we've gotten our shill down pretty good.
The one at the end, we're getting there. And they can find you on DM's Guild, and you're on DM's Guild under.
Search for my name, Lucas Zellers, Zellers. You'll find all of the things that I have done, even the poorly advised ones. The most recent thing that I put out is called The Way of the Shackled Beast, which is a monastic tradition for Eberron, resurrected from just the miles of nonsense that is 3.5. So I'll be in your Eberron game if you want to be a shifter and punch shape changers in the face.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We're going to make sure that you end up as Copper on the one. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put through as soon as we finish this up.
Thanks, man.
No, absolutely. No. Shouldn't be one away. Come on, we can do better than that. Come on, guys.
It really does make a big difference.
It's
wild. Hey, on that note, like if there is somebody on the DM's Guild that you want to support, one of the best ways you can do that is to leave them a review, not just like a rating, but a review. Mm-hmm. It really does give, and you know this as a podcast, it gives people confidence to trust us with your time and attention and money if it comes to that. So,
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's one of the best things you can do for an independent creator. Review their work. Take some time to engage with their content and leave evidence of your engagement. It makes a big difference for us.
I was going to say, as a couple of times the comments that have been left for us, just nice, regular comments have caused me to cry because I was having a rough time and didn't think the podcast was worth it. And then someone would be like, this is really good. And I was like, oh, no. And so, definitely engage. Yeah. Was there anything else that we had, Rebecca? Are we wrapping this up?
We're going to wrap it up.
We're going to wrap this up. Do you want to do the outro? You want I do the outro?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you for listening, and as always,
keep an ear out for those.
How would you do that?
One Mogan?
What do we normally do to close these? I'm never sure.
Yeah, we just close them.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure having you for, I'm assuming, a long time, because this went for a long time.
No.
So I'm going to edit about 30 minutes out of this
Cut
whole
it down.
hour and a half, and then just make you listen to the rest of it. Enjoy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Woo!
That was a journey.